Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Ridley Scott's Alien in 1979. So, here it is on Blu-ray, and yeah, another one of my favourite films list, my 500 favourite. And yes, that'll be reviewing each day, at least one film from there. And we're here with Alien, one of the most iconic films of all time, all the way down to its poster, great poster, yeah, and this film, is an absolutely stunning film. I think still got an 8.5 on IMDb, so that's extremely high, and it used to have more than that, I believe. I think actually, if anyone's noticed this, over the course of 2 years, everything's gone down on IMDb massively. It used to be quite high. Even some films that used to have an 8.6 and now an 8.3. But yeah, no. Back to the film. This is highly acclaimed, and it's not a film that since it's released, it's had a re-evaluation. It was instantly box office success and critically, and in polls in recent years, it's always been quite high. Critics' polls of best sci-fi, horror, and just films in general. And I can't really disagree with that. It's not, I wouldn't say like top 100 or anything, but it is among the best films that I've seen, and it is for me a perfect film, really, and much more of a horror film, sci-fi horror than the rest of them. Aliens, of course, James Cameron would come in and make more of a sci-fi action, and I'm not going to say what I like more out of this than Aliens. Wait till my review. I believe I have to 2 subscribers maybe talked about that and actually confirmed what I prefer, but I honestly can't remember. That may have been quite a few months ago, but I think I did say. But for those of you who don't know, you just have to wait to the Aliens review. I'll reveal it then if I like it more. But this is Ridley Scott, his second film, I believe, and The Duelists, I think, is his debut film, and that's a film I really am desperate to see. It's now on Sky, and yes, it's a film I've been seeking out for quite a few years. Kind of period film, and Harvey Keitel, and I just really looking forward to that. That's his debut, and this is his second film, and many people say it's his best, along with Blade Runner. Although there's those that say Gladiator's better. I would, I've never come to, Ridley Scott. I'll just talk, a bit about him first. I'm not a massive diehard fan personally of Ridley Scott in general. I'm not the biggest fan of Blade Runner, I'll say now, and I'll review that at some point. I've seen it twice now, theatrical and the final cut. I think it's a good film and nothing more for me personally, and I really have a lot of issues with it. But it's not that it's a bad film or anything, just not quite for me. Gladiator, I've not come to a conclusion on really, and I've not, over the years, and I've not seen it for quite a few years. Hannibal, I think, was an absolutely awful film, so far away from what Silence of the Lambs was. And you've got American Gangster, I thought was actually good, when I watched it. Prometheus, really one of the most disappointing films ever made, and The Covenant I've not seen, but it looks awful. So really, that's I think that's most of the things I've seen from Scott. So yeah, no. But Alien, I love. I absolutely adore. That's the one that I do think is perfect. And a film I absolutely love. It's of course quite a famous story. The crew of 7, and of course the ship Mother that they talked to as well. And basically the Nostromo ship, voyage they're on, and they get awoken, from their cryo sleep quite early from what they were expected. Going back to Earth, because they received this signal. Distress the signal from alien life, and they go onto this moon and they check it out basically, and eventually alien life basically gets back onto the ship because they take it back, and obviously it is a sci-fi horror, so things do happen if you've not seen it, and yeah, basically over the course of the film, things develop with the actual alien that they bring back, and things spiral out of control. And at its bare bones, to sum it up, it could be called a slasher in space, but that's really quite stupid to call it that. But that's what to expect. You just don't think of what slasher films, the quality of slasher films, in general are. It's much more than that. And of course, it's very very, there's a lot of issues. And on complex themes, and just the way he approached to what we'd do if we found alien life. It's very very deep and philosophical and stuff as well. It's not, you know, just a slash, of course, but generally, obviously the characters, you know, are up against these aliens, or, you know, really there's the one xenomorph, of course, which, you know, kind of hunts them down, and yes, just all unfolds from there, and just really just some words to sum this up. You know, this film is masterful in terms of tension, atmosphere, you know, just stunning visuals, the sets, you know, production design is you know, absolutely immaculate, and just you know, just an absolutely perfect film in terms of its design, a mix of characters and plot perfectly, really, and there's a perfect kind of build up, very gradual. This film, you know, gradually builds, introduces the mystery and everything, kind of builds it up, and it's really the first 20 minutes is purely really atmosphere through visuals, sound design, which is immaculate as well, and you just the kind of mystery that, you know, all the things that they're kind of catching on to. Then you start to get more and more of the character development, and of course the horror elements kick in once, you know, really around the hour mark is when it starts to properly kick in. So it's the one that builds the dread, the tension, the kind of atmosphere, it builds the characters, you know, and then it kind of reveals itself as, you know, a true kind of horror film, you could say, and sci-fi as well. But this is very, very, you know, very gradual build. It's not like Aliens, which is, you know, a lot more straight away. It's just there, you know, and that's it's constantly, you know, loads of things happening. But you know, that's not to say that this one things don't happen. Of course, it is. It's Ridley Scott, and you know, his films are very. I would never call him, you know, this film cold, but really more so than say with James Cameron films. I feel, you know, it's very much. You know, I don't find his films upbeat in the way that you know, a lot of our filmmakers are to describe it. This is very, very much restrained at times and stuff like that, but always in the best ways, subtle, and yeah, I just think it works perfectly for this film. Say if he made Alien, so it just wouldn't work, you know, an action film in this sense. And yes, you know, Sigourney Weaver is in this film. She's the main star as Ellen Ripley, and she is amazing. You know, in the second one onwards, she became more of an action hero, and I won't say what, you know, how I feel about that. But in this film, we'll talk about this film. You know, she is absolutely stunning, and the unique thing is, you know, Ridley Scott does not reveal her very, you know, straight away as the main character. This crew, you know, this crew of 7, they're all kind of given kind of equal amounts of screen time. You kind of get to know them, and then, you know, when things start to kick off, that's really when Ripley kind of steps up, and you know, she is the main character for the rest of the film, and of course the cat as well, that she looks after, which is great. And yeah, Jerry Goldsmith does the score for this film. The score is wonderful, it really is. And you know, just in general, the sound design, really something else. You know, you really listen closely. It's stunning. You know, the way that the sound travels, very realistically. You know, as if they're in this spaceship, the shuttle, and as well, it kind of feels, even the sound design it contributes to the claustrophobic feel that this film has, and not only heightens the tension and the atmosphere, you know, and it's just, you know, it is mainly in this kind of shuttle, and it works perfectly as a horror film in that sense. You know, it kind of just all contributes to how it builds the tension, and you know, the atmosphere and everything like that, and the dread, and you know, I just feel that this is a stunning film. You know, I think you know, the direction is perfect. I think really the way that Ridley Scott reveals the information to us, and the way that the sets and everything is, you know, the production design across the board is perfect. You know, it's something else, and the actual, of course, creature design of the xenomorph is one of the best creature designs in film. Full stop. And I think, you know, it's kind of course, there's more different aliens in the sequels, but this one, you know, it's just for what it is, it's absolutely perfect. You know, you've got the just the way as well that the xenomorph is revealed is really just great. You know, it's not revealed straight away. Probably about 45 minutes, or at least that, you know, before this is actually revealed, you know, in full form. And again, you know, Scott uses a lot of shadows and everything to kind of conceal it more, so it's even more creepy in that sense, and kind of more scary. And of course, the actual deaths and everything, stunning. Really just so well designed, and perfectly, it's got perfect flow to this film. It just very very gradual start, and then once it gets going in terms of the characters and everything, and obviously the set of events that do happen, it never stops and just it keeps flowing. The editing is crisp, it's just wonderful, and it just keeps going and going until quite could say an explosive finale, and it's just perfect. And a nice little ending as well. It's just it's a stunning film. The cinematography is wonderful. I actually watched the director's cut this time, and I can't really comment on the differences too much, because I hadn't seen Alien for quite a while, and I can't quite remember the actual differences. There's a couple I did notice this time, and I think maybe they're pretty even, I would say. There's things I like a bit more about the theatrical version. The director's cut has got some added scenes, and I think there's some stuff cut out as well. There's one or two bits I didn't quite like as much, and I won't get into that because it's kind of spoilers actually. But yeah, no, I think they're pretty even. Check them both out if you've not. Maybe the theatrical cut is just a bit more perfect to me. But yes, Aliens, I think the special edition is better than the theatrical. Generally I think, and Terminator 2 actually is better than the extended ones. Generally, really, if a director's had a play in it, it can be vastly improve the film. Other times, it's very, very minor differences, and sometimes films should be, left alone. This one, I think, it's kind of it's pretty even, in that sense, and I think maybe watch them both to kind of see what you like more. But it's not drastic, it's not drastic changes like Terminator 2 was, for example, or something like that. But yeah, no, the editing, as I said, is wonderful. The soundtrack is amazing. The characters as well, the character of Parker in particular is my favourite, apart from Ripley. He's just amazing in this film. He's the one that's kind of... It's funny how he's really jolly at first, and then when things start to actually happen, he's the one that gets more, worked up about it and stuff. And he's definitely my favourite character of the ones apart from Ripley. Ripley herself is, fully fleshed out, fully formed character in terms of a horror film. She's given, she not all is revealed, but she's given enough basically for us to kind of get invested and stuff. And Ian Holm as well plays Ash. Some very unique stuff happens with him, but he's a great character as well. He's kind of the one that keeps it all at bay at times. And just the whole Harry Dean Stanton as well. He's great in this film, great actor, and all the characters are very memorable. And it's just I love the way that this kind of this unit, this small unit, and it just kind of it builds the characters up at first, and then stuff doesn't happen, of course, and you kind of care about that a lot more. It's not just the film where a horror film, where they're all picked off straight away, and the opening scene, everyone, someone's killed and stuff. There's so many mindless kind of horror films, slashers and stuff. This is how you do it, and it's not really a slasher, but in the sense that the characters are taken and stuff at times, but it's just a stunning film. I think exercising tension and atmosphere, and the actual production design and just film, all the elements of filmmaking. I think this is really perfect. I don't think it's like the best sci-fi film ever made or anything, but it's among the best sci-fi films, I feel. And definitely if you call it a horror film, it's definitely among the best horrors. Not top 10 quite or anything like that, but it's a stunning film. I think the way it builds, the way it flows, it's stunning. I cared about the characters, and it's just absolutely thrilling. The way that Ridley Scott mounts tension, continuously to a point where really it's quite unbearable. At times it's just stunning, and it's all through just patient and kind of precise filmmaking. And just the editing, the cinematography. The way that the kind of xenomorph and everything they're built up, and then when they are revealed, they're even more scary and everything. And the use of editing in the way that of course editing can reveal things, but and stuff in different ways, and cinematography can show things, but it's the way that he doesn't show a lot of things as well that kind of makes it even better. And I think the soundtrack and the sound design are wonderful, and just builds and builds, and this is kind of like a perfect machine of tension, and it's got heart, and funny moments for sure, but it is mainly a tense, claustrophobic, atmospheric film, and in that sense, it is really perfect. John Hurt as well in this film, it's great. Certainly better than the film is in the next year. One of the films, Heaven's Gate, but yeah, maybe I'll review Heaven's Gate at one point. But yeah, no, overall, of course, it's a great actor. And in this, he's, of course, that scene is one of the most memorable in cinema. And he's great in the film when he's in it. And yeah, I think the performances, the characters, the writing is great. Everything is just perfect, really. Highly recommend it if you've not seen it. But I think, of course, by now most people have seen it. And yeah, and I just think Alien is for sure a masterpiece. It doesn't quite get into my plus tiers, but obviously some people are thinking, why is it not in your plus tiers when you've given so many other films, 100% plus. But remember that the kind of the fact that the plus tiers are combined with quality and how high they are on my list, the films, and this isn't quite in my top 200. So it's just personally it is for me. I don't think it's quite one of the absolute finest films ever made or anything, but I absolutely love the film. I adore it. I think it's perfect. I love really everything about it. It's just that so happens that there's a lot of films I like even more. But as it stands, for what it's trying to be, it really is perfect. And just such a tense film, and perfect design, 100%, and a definite masterpiece for me. I definitely agree with its claim. It is a perfect horror film, a perfect sci-fi film. I think there are definitely better ones out there, and stuff. And it's just a stunning film. It's not quite the best film of that year, 79. That would go to Apocalypse Now for me. But I think it is a perfect film, and yeah. I don't imagine liking any more Ridley Scott films more than this. But yeah, no, stunning film, and for his second feature film, what a piece of film. Alien, for sure a masterpiece. And yeah, thanks for watching my review, and this kind of fits in quite well. I'm going to be rewatching Aliens soon, and that kind of ties in quite nicely because I'm in kind of at the moment kind of a Fincher director series, so Alien 3 of course. And then I might watch Aliens, before that. Of course, different directors for each one. And then as I go to Alien 3, that kind of fits quite nicely in there. And of course, while I'm doing other Fincher films. So yeah, I think Alien is definitely a flawless masterpiece from me. And yeah, thanks for watching my review of Ridley Scott's Alien.